Okay, everyone, party time. We have game number one here in Group C of the WGL, and we actually have the fifth race himself in the game. Moon is playing as Nightelf here on Concealed Hills all the way up to the top right, and we have him going up against an Undead opponent playing against pcg down here. And this should be an awesome one. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is such a throwback to be in the game and casting Moon again. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's a great matchup that we have here right off the bat. Crypt already on the way, Altar of Darkness as well. Undead versus Nightelf, starting a bit with a ghoul build order here on the side of PCG. And casting Moon again is just so much fun. I mean, I casted the guy back in the days in Warcraft 3 quite a bit, and then even when he was playing StarCraft in Korea, I casted a couple of his games back then in the GSL. So it's just absolutely amazing to see him here in Warcraft 3 again. And a lot of the old-timers actually are starting to play the game again. Matt Frog is starting to play and dabble a little bit. Satini is coming back. We're having Show, for example, play. Lil DC, like all the old schoolers are currently starting to play. Night End very high up on the ladder. Happy dominant in Europe at this point in time. Everybody's preparing for Reforged, and it should be an absolute blast. Moon, of course, also going with the time and with the patch power here, going straight for the Keeper of the Grove over the first hero. So this guy always looking a little bit pissed when he is being trained. Not quite sure why that is. Probably knows that the patch is coming up pretty soon. I'm gonna nerf him hard. Death Knight, on the other hand, here for PCG in game number one of the best of three. Now keep in mind, this is also the first game of the group, so we are currently on day 3, and we're just starting here today with Group C and Group D. So for both of them, it's really important to get a pretty good start into the group and start things off with a win. Already, Ancient of War built all the way up the front, the traditional one archer creep that we normally see. Make sure that you don't take down one of those creeps before the hero pops out. Treants being summoned right away, and there we go. A lot of Undead players actually just lately have started to aim for that Ancient of War a little bit more aggressively. We actually saw a pretty awesome strategy from Lucifer yesterday against Colorful, where he went in, used his first ghoul right away to draw creep attention to the Ancient of War that was being built, and actually forced it even being destroyed. It was a pretty cool move from him. Had to sacrifice a lot of wood from it, and therefore even built a Necropolis instead of a Ziggurat because he needed to supply, and then followed it up with a double crypt ghoul rush. And that double crypt ghoul rush is something that we're actually seeing a little bit more often on smaller maps against Nightelf, just trying to pressure them from the get-go. At this point, we're still seeing Moon not really being too active on the map, really heavily focusing on creeping the small camps around his own base. And we've seen in the past a lot of Nightelf players, good coil, taking one of the treants down, a bit more extra experience for the Death Knight. A lot of Nightelf players really try and start out with a lot of tier 1 units and then try and control the map, walk with a Keeper straight up, try to entangle a couple of ghouls, couple of fiends, really putting the pressure onto the Undead player, and outside of the coil there's very little you can do with that. In this case we already have the Necropolis being upgraded here, so there's no double crypt shenanigans that we're going to see from PCG. And instead we're now seeing exactly what I just talked about a second ago. We're seeing a little bit more aggression and like activity from the Keeper on the map together with the tier 1 units that we're seeing from Moon here. And Moon himself in his own base also upgrading to the Tree of Life. We have the Hunter's Hall. Ultra Vision is currently being researched here as well. And in the Ancient of War, you guessed it already, we're going to see a couple of Hunters here now too. So early game dominance already with tier 1 units on the side of Moon, trying to really control the flow of the game, keeping the Undead low. And against an Undead, you always want to try and disrupt his creep pattern as much as you can. If you're actually able to prevent him from creeping and getting his heroes high, then you have a really good chance into the late game. Graveyard is now being built by PCG. So far he's only relying on ghouls, but he really needs to be careful now that the first Hunters are in there. We had a couple of attempts already to go for a surround on the first hero from Moon, but here's the Entangle. Coil saves the ghoul for now, but in the long run he's probably still going to lose it here. Tries to at least set the surround on the Hunt, doesn't get it, but he has by now, at least in the inventory, the Dust of Appearance. So if he actually manages to get a surround on an Archer, or even on a Huntress, he can definitely take it down for sure here. We see a little bit of progress also on the side of Moon going into Tree of Life, so he's already planning to go up here, creep the expansion, and then go for the second base. Undead obviously these days still very heavily reliant on single base, trying to just make sure that they are staying on the no upkeep, below 50 supply, and then later on just heavily invest and try to overwhelm their opponent with tier 3 units. But for the time being, at least, we're seeing a pretty heavy commitment from our Undead player to ghouls. Now, the one thing that he still doesn't have, which is a little bit of a nuisance here for PCG, if we're honest, he doesn't have the Unholy Aura yet. He really needs level 2 to get that speed bonus and a little bit of better regeneration. The problem is that Moon is just doing his best to make sure that there's very little to do. You can't really keep up at this point with a lot of the Nightelf units, and whenever that Keeper is around and drops that Entangle, it's just insanely difficult for you to move out on the map and creep anything here. Especially when you are looking at the minimap, we're currently seeing so many Wisps being active on the side of Moon that he has a very, very good idea of what exactly the Undead player is doing. So no matter where PCG moves out, Moon has a bit of an idea of where exactly his opponent is and then can react and immediately try and interrupt it. Again, the Entangle is in, Coil is there, and by now we're seeing PCG actually bring the rest of the ghouls into play as well. Huntress is trying to escape here and already using the Shadow Melt. Again, we have also the Dust of Appearance, but so far not really being used. Second hero coming in, Alchemist, of course. Once again, surround attempt already, the Entangle on the ground. Not really the yeah, there's the Town Portal. I was just about to say, not really the best situation here for PCG, because he was definitely in a spot where he can't really do too much. He's just being drawn from the left to the right the entire time, and now venturing out like this without the Unholy Aura, there wasn't really a chance for him to really go for a surround on the Keeper either. So if you have the Unholy Aura and you somehow get ahead of the Keeper and can body block him a little bit, you might be able to actually set the surround and then work with that. The problem is, without level 2, there's just no way of making that happen. And once the Alchemist came into play, PCG immediately said, alright, screwed up, went out, like didn't really quite expect that yet, and needed to use the Town Portal. It's a lot of gold down the drain, and at this point if he gets caught again he's going to be in trouble. We're seeing him creeping solo with the Death Knight now, and he finally has level 2. In the main base, committing now to the Lich as the second hero, and still having a lot of his ghouls also active on wood, so he's not going to have any problems here anytime soon. Slaughterhouse is in play, we're seeing the first Obsidian statue. He's currently sitting at 36 supply against the 39 that we're having on Moon's side. But Moon is by now creeping his base, as we said before. He built the Tree of Life up at the top. We have the Alchemist now on level 2, has the Ring of Regeneration, and the Keeper has hit level 3 by now as well. Staff of Preservation in the inventory, so he can even staff a couple of the units home here. Things are looking pretty decent for Moon. The one thing that PCG really needs is experience, and he's trying to find that now by taking those small creep camps outside of his base. Has at least the Lich with the Orb of Corruption, now that he's also on the Black Citadel, but he's definitely going to lead a lot more if he wants to win the game here. One more statue is in, no upgrades for the ghouls yet either. It's a little bit of a question what kind of matchup you're playing. There's a lot of players that would rather invest into additional units than sacrifice the golden wood that you need to get those upgrades for your units. That's always the big question there. 36 supply on the side of PCG. Undead player with another attempt to creep a bit, but we're seeing the exact same pattern also on the side of his opponent. Wand of Mana stealing in the hands of Moon. We're seeing the first few Fairy Dragons in here as well. His expansion is running. He's sitting at 46 supply. It's looking pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the level 3 Death Knight that we're gonna see in a second. Even moving the Lich back so that all the experience goes over to the Death Knight. The level 3 DK is definitely gonna help with the level 2 Death Coil. Can maybe nuke a little bit. Should still take the Tomb here. Forgets actually about the Tomb of Agility. And doesn't even take it. And Moon is now already getting better and better creep spots. And he's actually investing a lot in the Fairy Dragons. It doesn't really come as a surprise. The cool thing about Fairy Dragons in general is you just cannot use Coil Nova against them. So you're very reliant on using units. The Lich himself with the Orb of Corruption can do quite a bit of work there. But at this point, we're even seeing an Aura. Lionhorn of Stormwind is there, and here at least an Archer down, and this is the creep jack that we are seeing PCG hoping for. But now the problem is the creeps are mostly gone. Fountain of Health in the back, definitely an advantage for the Nightelf player. Now there's no Town Portal on the side of PCG. He is in a huge amount of trouble here. Doesn't really have too many anti-air units. The only thing that he has is the Crypt Fiend, and that's already heavily pursued. Is going to fall eventually. Getting another web in. The Coil saves the Fiend for now, but there's very little, in my opinion, that PCG can really do here in the long run. He needs to be a bit careful with that fight. and the Fiend is already about to go down. Another level up for the Keeper. The Aura, the Lion, Home of Stormwind already doing quite a bit of work too. One Fairy Dragon down. Crypt Fiend also eliminated. 49 supply for Moon, 35 for PCG. Moon moving back for now to just reassemble his army in their own main base. Has a couple of Hippogriffs actually coming in now as well and refresh some items, and he should be able to defend this base. I mean, we're seeing PCG moving in with this. The Lich is not 3 yet, but he has at least the Orb of Corruption, the Gloves of Haste. And here is already the approach from the side. Sentry Ward spots it, and PCG is falling back at least for now. Second Crypt coming into play. Still a heavy commitment to Fiends at this point. No upgrades for his units. Gonna double check here real quickly, but no, we're not seeing anything. And in the meantime, we're having Moon in full pursuit here. Gets another Entangle through. Destroyer able to dispel the Entangle, though. Another Coil would save it. And yep, that's definitely what we're seeing here. But at the same time, we're looking over to the Alchemist. And I actually think we're having... Oh, no, he didn't buy the second Staff of Preservation. So there's a couple of owls here in the trees, and gets the vision through that. But Moon has now also ventured into low upkeep. So he is currently sitting at 60 supply. And he's looking pretty solid here. I mean, good webs again that we're seeing from PCG. The back and forth hit and run that we're seeing from the Undead players. Exactly what he needs to do here. But his own Fiends are exposed as well. Again, trying to keep them alive. Nova coming through now too. Still on level 1, slowing a couple of units down here. Needs to be cautious with the Fiend. Gets the Coil through just barely. But the Entangle is there. Dispelled once again. The Fiend's still falling. But a couple of the Hippogriffs are also biting the dust here. As we're seeing Moon focus on the statues. Getting one down. Trying to also drop the Destroyer here, getting a lot of damage in. 57 supply on the side of Moon, and on the side of the Undead player, only 33. Definitely struggling here, but with all the web coming through right now from the Fiends, we're seeing the Town Portal used by Moon. He goes for a pretty decent exchange still. As, ooh, that Hippogriff, yeah, a little bit of a suicidal one. The Hippogriff just lost his job, lost also the Archer, so at this point he just didn't have anything to live for and decided to suicide straight into the Lich, who took that shot with pleasure. Now the problem that we're still seeing here for PCG is, even though he defended quite nicely and took a couple of units down, the big problem for him really is that he can't trade evenly for very long with Moon, because Moon has that additional income, and as time progresses, this base is just going to get more and more value as the game continues, of course. We have a +1 attack upgrade now already for the Fairy Dragons, and you can really tell that Moon is just starting to mass these bad boys pretty heavily. Also adding a couple of additional Hippogriffs here into the mix as well, against the Destroyers in particular. Death Knight on 3, seeing the Lich not quite on level 3 yet, so the 2 Nova isn't there. Could actually move back with the Death Knight, but he really wants to have the level 2 Unholy Aura as well. Still no Town Portal for him, and that's actually dangerous. In this case, he gets a little bit lucky, because Moon was just creeping down here at the additional healing fountain. And the problem really is that if Moon would have moved down to the bottom, he would have just completely run into the Undead player, and with the Entangle, he could have forced a fight that PCG definitely did not want to take there. Alchemist now also has the Boots of Kalfalas, another big spot already being grabbed, and oh my god, Cloak of Flames, that's definitely going to hurt against the ground units that we're seeing here. Level 4, nearly 5 Keeper, Alchemist on level 4, PCG trying to do what he can here, even an Acolyte already in position to summon his own gold mine and trying to go for a second base. The Death Knight is nearly level 3, let's take a closer look at the Lich, has hit level 3, level 2 Nova for him, 48 supply on his side, no upgrades yet on the Fiends, whereas we're seeing the Huntress without any upgrades, but still the +1. And, well, now the big question, can he actually kite through this? Undead players making good use of that Unholy Aura, can really kite a lot, but here comes the Entangle on the Lich. Good Dispel once again, needs to be careful. Again, the Nova coming through, slowing half the army down pretty significantly, but there's again the Entangle and the Death Knight way too far away. Should have seen this one coming. The Coil doesn't hit in time, and the Lich goes down, and Moon is taking another Fiend as well. The GG called as PCG realizes the game's over, and Moon takes the lead. Game number 2, everyone. Moon going up against PCG. Echo Isles is our second map, and Moon has taken the lead in the best of 3 series here, the WGL Groupstage. And so far, PCG has basically got a little bit of a lesson in the last game. Was not really able to have a huge impact onto the flow of the game at all. Moon kept him pretty low the entire time and was just able to dominate that early game quite easily. So translated that into an expansion, and then with the added economy did a really good job of just massing out the fairy dragons, creeping basically the entire map. He had both of the healing fountains that he grabbed and the gold mine in the middle on concealed hills. Now here on Echo Isles we might see a bit of a more aggressive game from the Undead player. Ancient of War again built right at the creep camp, so we are going to see that one archer Ancient of War creep camp clear that we are used to from them. In the meantime, Altar of Relics and Crypt are being built, so going into the early hero here, dropping the Crypt as well. Actually a little bit of a delayed Crypt even, very early hero commitment that we're seeing from him, going into the Death Knight, so we can very much expect him to be a bit more aggressive with all of this. Acolyte already on the way, trying to get a bit of scouting information. And which hero are we going to see for the Nightelf? Let me think. How about a Keeper? Oh my god, look at that. Prediction skills are 10 out of 10 here today. Who would have thought? I mean, no one saw that coming. So, yeah, let's see how this is gonna work out for our Undead player in game number 2. If Moon is... No way! Oh my god, he actually goes for an Acropolis in his opponent's base. We're gonna see a bit of a tower rush? Are you kidding me? What the hell? I mean, what exactly is he going to do? If he really wants to go for Spirit Towers, he needs a graveyard as well, and he doesn't have that right now. I mean, I didn't see that one coming at all. Alright, let's see how they're going to react here. I mean, he can... I honestly want to know what this is going to be. This is already sick. Acolyte is right over here. Death Knight is out. Has already bought the Rod of Necromancy and is getting a couple of skeletons over. And how is he going to play this? Is he going to cancel that? Just build the Necropolis in his main base to piss him off? Or what exactly is this going to be? I have to admit, I have never seen this before, that variation. I've seen a couple of insane rushes with towers with a Necropolis back in the day, but this is a bit weird. He has to cancel that, right? So this is just one of those, I'm going to force you to stay in your base, and then I'm going to cancel it. It's costing him quite a penny, though. I mean, the longer you let a building produce, the more it costs you, or the less gold you get back once you cancel it. So a cancel on the structure here, as it does right now, cost him quite a bit of money. I highly doubt that was worth it. I mean, he interrupts definitely the momentum of the Night Elf a little bit and avoids being attacked here early on, but for a second I really thought he would go for some kind of insane tower rush or something. I don't really know how that would have worked, but I guess it's something that I was excited to see. Then again, having that cancelled. I mean, really interesting what the thought process behind that is. I mean, we forced at least a bit of a reaction out of Moon. The problem is that, again, you sacrifice a fair amount of gold for that. We're seeing now in the main base, Graveyard, Necropolis is being built, so he can invest in the Fiends a bit later. But was that play really worth it? I'm actually a little bit skeptical if that was actually a thing. The proxy was fun, but I'm always a bit of a skeptic when it comes, okay, how much did you actually accomplish with that? Again, yesterday I was actually a huge fan of the way that Lucifer played. We talked about that quite a bit, how he sacrificed his early ghoul and didn't set it on wood, so he had a bit of an issue there. And I compensated for it by building an Acropolis in his own base just to get the extra supply instead of having to wait for the extra wood to come in order to invest for a ziggurat. But that particular move that we saw there slowed Moon down, but I'm not quite sure if it was really slowing him down enough. A good scouting from the Death Knight, though. I mean, we don't really have a lot of experience for the DK yet. He crept one camp, but outside of that, you see at least the scouting information is coming in. He sees the Tree of Life. He knows what's happening with that. Moon is again going also for a quick upgrade in his own main base. This is actually one of these setups where these double crypt ghoul rushers are oftentimes really successful because Nightelf, with the help of the Keeper, is really greedy these days and trying to invest into these early expansions, into only one Ancient of War, the very quick tech, very few tier 1 units that oftentimes happens. So you see Insub, we've talked about it, on Azeroth, investing a lot into the double crypt ghoul rush. We saw the approach of Lucifer against Colorful yesterday too, to make the same happen. But right now, we're having a massive amount of money being amassed by PCG. I mean, he was sitting at 1,000 gold just now. Immediately goes into the Black Citadel, doesn't waste a second to invest his gold into anything else, like even delaying his second hero a little bit, not getting anything done there just yet. Hasn't even started it. Slaughterhouse is on the way, but no second hero committed to. And he has the money. It's not like he doesn't have the money. He has the money and he has the supply, but he doesn't build a Lich, so I'm still really interested to see what this is going to be. It's a massively fast tech that we're seeing from him. Like, again, he started with a super early Death Knight. He built that Necropolis in his opponent's base, then just amassed the money, teched into tier 2, immediately started the tech into tier 3, just using the Death Knight to be a bit of a nuisance, trying to slow his opponent down, getting scouting information there too. And with the knowledge that there was a Tree of Life being built in the proxy position, he of course also knows that there's going to be an attempt to creep the gold mine and set that into place as fast as possible so that Moon gets a return of investment. Not going to hit a coil here though, doesn't get the item either. There's a Circle of Nobility coming in. And by now, he actually has to be careful, because a good entangle with a couple of units that we're seeing here right now could actually lead to a surround. So he needs to be very, very cautious with that. In the main base, still no second hero. We're having the first few Fiends being built. He's going straight into a statue. We're having him also again with a tech nearly halfway done, compared to Moon, who just now has actually reached his tier 2, going straight into the Nature's Blessing, increasing the armor a little bit and also the move speed, so he can use that a little bit more effectively. I mean, the problem that I have with what PCG is doing right now is that he basically gives up the map. He gives up control completely. So he's clearly aiming for some kind of timing that he wants to execute with a Black Citadel push. But he is giving the entire map over to his opponent, and Moon is just saying, you know what, I have my core army here with a lot of Huntress, I have my tier 1 units, and I'm just going to creep everything. And he's already on level 3 with a Keeper, very likely going to add another hero quite soon. We're having with an expansion now too. So if that tier 3 push that we're going to see from, if that timing from PCG fails, it's basically a death sentence right there. So he really puts it all onto one single card at this point. And yeah, I mean, let's just check that out. He has the Lich now out, a little bit later again than I expected, but perfectly in time with his Black Citadel being completed. So immediately the Orb of Corruption is being used, and now he can try and get a little bit of action going. The problem that I have is still, he gave up the map. And Moon actually realized that too. He did not only creep the shop in the middle, he moved even over to the gold mine of his opponent and said, like, dude, if you're not getting that stuff, I'm gonna take it away from you. So he creeps nearly everything down here, and the only thing that's really left at this point in time for PCG is his own mercenary camp. But here comes the attack. Hunters are starting to move in. Of course, a Tangle already on the way. Nova is in play, and that Orb of Corruption is doing some work. Can't get the kill against the Huntress, though. Moon, the 5th race, is already microing his heart out here and is able to save nearly everything. And that's a disaster right now for PCG. That is not working out at all for him. Level 4 Keeper. And here comes the Nova. Maybe at least a few kills happening now for PCG, and he gets the Huntress. He's also maybe able to get another Treant. More experience in his hands at this point at least. Level 2 on the Death Knight, 2.5. And we're having the Lich, of course, also starting to add a couple of experience points, starting to go for the camps here too. But in the meantime, we're actually seeing the camp here being triggered, and Moon needs to be careful that he doesn't lose a Huntress. But let's take a look into the main base of our Undead player. So we're seeing more Fiends being built. He didn't really invest into any upgrades yet. We still see him with 600 gold. Has a bit of wood left too. 33 supply for him. But just double checking with Moon. Moon is sitting at 48 supply. He has a Scroll of Healing by now. We're seeing him activating the Moonstone here as well for the Moon Wells. He's still creeping. Hasn't invested into a second hero just yet. But he's really get the items. Hello? Manual of Health isn't really too shabby. Ring of Protection, okay. Well, we can argue about that, but still, I would still take it. Worst case, it's money. No second hero for Moon yet, but he has those Ancient of Laws, and he's starting to get the Dryads out. And guess what? He's creeping again. He's again active, and he is trying to get that keeper on a pretty high level. He's currently doing very well with that. 57 supply for him, and all that he has to do right now is make sure that once the attack of PCG hits, he defends against it. Because again, PCG is currently mainly investing into a few additional fiends. So I'm not 100% certain what exactly PCG accomplished with that earlier proxy that he had there, and if giving up the map like this was really the best choice. Now again, as an Undead player against Nightelf, it is oftentimes tricky to really make that play. Third hero in, we have a Tinker actually now in play. See that a bit more often against Nightelf here with the Pocket Factory, but this is the moment of truth, and already the double dispel against the heroes, a lot of mana being drained here. As we said before, early game for Undead can be rough against the Keeper play, but right now all those hunts are doing work. Nice blocking though with the Pocket Factory here. The Fiend's a little bit safer at this point, but the Death Knight is not and has to use the TP here. Good pressure by Moon. DK with the Town Portal, and that attack at least didn't really do too much. Now it is tough in the early game if you have a Night Elf opponent that starts with a Keeper and invests in a fair amount of hunts to really get anything going in the early stages to get the experience. But it was very, very problematic for him that he didn't get too much here yet. Now, if he gets the heroes on a higher level, then we can definitely talk about him putting up a fight, but right now he's just starting to fall behind in a numbers game. We have 47 supply, so still no upkeep for PCG, 67 supply for Moon. Now, he has a couple of additional workers, of course, through that expansion, and he invested in that too, but now we have the +2 attack upgrade for the Hunters here. We have the Keeper with double scroll of healing, and in addition to that, he's nearly level 5. Things are definitely a little bit tricky for PCG, mainly because he doesn't have a level 3 Lich, so the level 2 Nova is missing, and without the new capability, it's pretty tough. Gets the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability though, so that's at least something. Takes it also away from the Keeper, who would have potentially taken it, but now again the pressure on the Death Knight needs to take the Potion over, and he doesn't do it. He doesn't give the Potion over to the Death Knight, and now all of a sudden the decay is down, and that should basically be game. The Tinker falls as well, and Moon just runs over his opponent, takes the 2-0 victory, says thank you, steals his lunch money, and is out.